Am I the a-hole for posting about my 29 female engagement and pregnancy on Facebook, despite knowing that my ex 32 male is struggling with infertility? Hi all. I've kind of accepted that I might be the a-hole here, but my fiancé says I'm not. I wanted a second opinion. For context, my ex Kevin, 32 male, and I have a child together that I put up for adoption when I was 22. I did it largely because I didn't want to have a child with Kevin. He had a really bad temper, he was pretty irresponsible, and neither of us had steady jobs at a time. I supported us through freelance writing, but being pregnant meant that I didn't get many of the jobs I had before. I knew that neither of us would be good parents, and that relinquishment was the right choice. But if he had told me he wanted to keep the child, I wouldn't have fought him on that. When the time came, he signed the relinquishment papers without argument. Our daughter is now 7, and she seems very happy with her adoptive parents. So while the situation does still cost me pain every once in a while, I can't complain about the outcome. Kevin and I eventually broke up when he cheated on me with his current wife, Stacy, 25 female. I wasn't that torn up about it because we were honestly only staying together because of the trauma we both shared. I have since found stable work as a software engineer and recently bought a house with the extra money. My fiancé Lex, 34 male, knew this about me from the first time we met. Thankfully, it wasn't a deal breaker for him. We started dating when I was 27, I'm 29 now, and he proposed about a month ago. I accepted. Then we found out I was 3 months pregnant about a week after he proposed, which was a shock to both of us because I'm on long-term birth control. Despite the circumstances, we're overjoyed and have decided to keep the baby. Since we already passed the first trimester before we discovered I was pregnant, we decided to announce the engagement and the pregnancy at the same time. My ex flipped out. He got my number from my mom and started blowing up my phone. He told me that I forced him to put our child up for adoption. I didn't, and that I don't deserve to have a child now, knowing that I abandoned our firstborn. I blocked him, he bought burner phones. Then his wife started getting in on it, vacillating between crying and screaming at the voicemail she sent. It got so bad I had to change my number. Lex is telling me that all of this is bananas, and that if Kevin was really ready to become a parent, he would have put his foot down when the time came. My mother, on the other hand, says that I should be more compassionate towards them. A part of me doesn't want to be compassionate towards either of them. As selfish as this seems, I feel like I was the one who primarily struggled with the adoption, but like Kevin didn't support me at all through the entire event. I also have to admit I knew about their infertility struggles and didn't care. Am I the a-hole here, guys? I don't think any of this would have happened if I didn't announce it on Facebook. Now for the top comments. Honestly, OP, I am very glad that you made the right decision to get your first child adopted. A child deserves a stable home and parents who can take care of him or her. Your current pregnancy is none of Kevin's business. As for your mother, you better tell her clearly that she's not to give out your number to anyone without your consent. Kevin sounds like both him and his wife need serious therapy. Their infertility is their problem, not yours. Congrats on a new baby and best wishes. I want to send them a text being like, and now we all know why I decided to give our child away, but that feels mean-spirited. No, don't waste your time, OP. Kevin is not part of your life anymore. The guy has serious problems. You have changed your number and now you need to concentrate on your own pregnancy and make sure you stay healthy. You have your own life now. She also needs a restraining order against X and his wife because they don't sound like the most well-balanced beings on the planet. Not stay home, but I'd get a restraining order against Kevin and his wife and tell your mom to stay out of your business. Ditto. The burner phones and voice messages are stalking behavior. Your safety could be compromised. Also, you are allowed to announce happy things going on in your life. Their response is about them. They're just looking to blame you. Finally, congratulations on the engagement and pregnancy. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my fiancé he committed theft by gifting his nephew the gift I bought for my sick brother? My female 30 brother, male 16, was born with a heart condition that prevented him from living his childhood to the fullest and doing his favorite activities. He can't do most things due to his condition and the side effects his medications have on him. My parents have always struggled with money because of medical bills, and unfortunately they cannot afford to buy my brother nice things. For example, he always wanted a console to play with. He only gets to play when my uncle and cousins visits and bring their console. My brother has been feeling sad and lonely recently after his doctors recommended that visits be limited. I decided to use my salary to get him his own console and wait till Christmas to give it to him. I bought an Xbox and it has been sitting in my closet until I discovered that my fiancé took it and sent it to his nephew who lives states away. I was in dismay. I confronted him about it, asking why he took the Xbox, knowing it was supposed to be a gift for my brother. He said he knew, but explained his sister's single mom and couldn't buy any gifts for her son. Nor are they receiving gifts from family since they're all ignoring her after giving her money, so they think they've done enough. He told me he felt sorry for his nephew and wanted to cheer him up, but didn't have money, so he thought that he could send him the Xbox, and then we'll figure out what I'm going to gift my brother together. I told him he had no right to touch the Xbox, and said that what he did was theft, which made him upset and somewhat shocked. He said he was very hurt I essentially called him a thief, when he thought that I cared about our nephew as much as he does. I'd explained my brother does not need the Xbox since he can't find time to play due to his condition, and also not finding playmates also due to his condition. I told him my brother was still capable, and he was making it seem as if he wasn't, but he argued he didn't mean it this way. Just that he was hurt, I called his good deed theft. But I stood by what I said and demanded he either pay for the Xbox or pay me. But he acted more hurt, calling me careless and mean to take a gift from a child like that. But I said I didn't gift his nephew this device, and so it is not my problem. He gave me complete silence and then went to stay at a hotel for 3 days, saying I was being unfair to him and hurt him deeply. The problem still stands, and he is counting on me to let it go and see that he was just helping a sister and nephew out. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. How can he afford a hotel for 3 days but not an Xbox? This was my first thought. My second is file a police report. OP, file a police report. Seriously. Also, call the sister and tell her that the Xbox is not a gift for her son, and if she doesn't return, you'll file against her for receiving stolen property. Then break up with your boyfriend, as he has no respect for you. He stole your stuff and insulted your brother. He thinks his family is more important than yours. Not stay home. Demand the money back. And you're not taking a gift from a child. He was the one who took a gift from your brother. Also, if he can afford to stay in a hotel for a few days out of pettiness, he can definitely afford to pay for his nephew's presents. That last bit. How can you not have money for a gift but you can go stay at a hotel? Even without the rest of the foolishness is saying that makes him the a-hole. You're definitely not the a-hole, OP. Not the a-hole. You should seriously rethink this relationship. Your fiancé is a thief and now is trying to gaslight you. Red flags. And pretty freaking ableist, thinking a child with a heart condition is too disabled to 1. Have friends, and 2. Enjoy video games. He thinks his non-disabled nephew is more deserving of an expensive gift. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not paying for my date? So me, 26 male, and Kyla, 24 female, matched on a dating app. We messaged a few times, but nothing really happened from it. Couple months later, we see each other at a mutual friend's wedding. We talk most of the night and have a great time. I ask for Kyla's number from our mutual friend. We text for a few weeks and eventually make plans to meet. We have plans to meet for drinks, and she cancels last minute. Basically, 10 minutes before we are set to meet for dinner, Kyla tells me something came up and can't make it. I tell Kyla it's fine, and she starts taking longer to text, is short and less engaged. Eventually, Kyla quits responding and I move on. A week later, she calls to apologize and ask if we can meet up again. I agree only because my friend's new wife convinced me. Date comes and it started off rocky. Kyla showed up late saying traffic was bad. She brought up her past relationships constantly and it made me uncomfortable. She did apologize for canceling the first date, saying she was nervous. She also had multiple drinks at a shot. I only had 2 drinks. She was also on her phone. Not the whole date, but enough for me to notice. Things weren't going well and the conversation was stiff. When the bill comes, they ask how we're doing it, and I say split it. Kyla looks at me and says, I didn't actually bring my wallet. At this point, I'm just done, and says, I'm sorry, but I'm not paying, and I don't think this is gonna work. I paid my bill and left while Kyla sat there. My friend's wife calls me that night, yelling at me, calling me an a-hole. I guess Kyla's sister had to come bring her money, and I've been called an a-hole by some of the friend group. Am I? Not an a-hole. What kind of idiot doesn't bring any money at all to a date? It was really presumptuous of her to expect you to pay in the first place. Not bringing her wallet is just downright manipulation. Good for you for sticking to your guns. I am 33, and from my experience in dating during my generation, Whoever invites the other out is the one who is expected to pay. Expected is in quotes because it is not a requirement. Not only is Opie not an a-hole, she invited him out this time and should have paid herself if the check was not split. Not an a-hole. Edit. The word expected was in quotes because I couldn't think of another word to use, but splitting is still the standard. If anyone pays for the whole thing, it's the inviter. This isn't required but is polite. That being said, it isn't impolite to split either. Not an a-hole. Nobody should show up to a date without money to pay their fair share. Exactly. And at 24, it's easy to be mistaken for 20. How do people go out drinking without identification? Not an a-hole. Nobody forgets their wallet. If I canceled on someone at the last minute, I would welcome the chance to treat them. Edit. If she had her phone, she could have offered to Venmo or Cash App. Yep, I don't understand why no one brought up Venmo. If I'd honestly forgotten my wallet or card, I'd just tell my dates as soon as I realized and ask if I could Venmo them if they're able to cover the tab. Then there would be no a-holes. Next story. Am I the a-hole for being an ungrateful, spoiled brat for the Christmas gift my husband got me? I, female 35, want to begin by saying that in every holiday, me and my husband, male 33, we both work decent jobs, set separate budgets for gifts. He uses his own money to buy gifts and I do the same. We've been married for almost a year, together for 3, and this is our first Christmas as married couple. He made a list of every person he wanted to buy a gift for. I stumbled upon this list by accident and out of curiosity, decided to take a look. I found that his friends/coworkers were on top of his list with gifts that cost over $5,000 total. For example, he got a $600 wristwatch for his coworker, a $250 bracelet for his sister-in-law, and a $900 workout gear for his friend. There was more, but that's all I could remember. What made me upset was that when I got to my name, I saw that he bought me a $20 something kitchen spoon set, stainless steel. I was too shocked to ignore this, and I had a confrontation with him about it. He argued that A, it's his money, he's the one paying, so I should not control that, and B, his coworker/friends are important to him and has known them for ages. C, he said a gift should be appreciated no matter what it cost. I argued that he was disrespecting me and dismissing my feelings with the gift he chose to get me, not to mention that I spent a lot of money for his gifts to buy him his favorite shoe/gaming brands. But he got upset and said I was acting like an ungrateful spoiled brat and urged me to get rid of this attitude and accept what I'm giving. The argument got worse and we stopped talking to each other. He still says I'm being ridiculous with my overreaction and should stop. Did I overreact? Now for the comments. There's still time to return his gifts and get him a $20 gift card to the local home improvement store. Not an a-hole. Yep, it would be one thing if she was a spoon collector, and while cheap, the set was unique and interesting, or just something she really wanted. Just putting no thought into it. He gave her what you'd give someone you didn't know that well as a housewarming gift. Also, it's a kitchen utensil, so he's buying something for the house rather than something his wife personally likes. Girl, if you're gonna be the last thing on his priority list, better give him nicely wrapped divorce papers this Christmas. Not stay home. This right here. He basically give you a box of red flags for Christmas. Take the hint and kick this guy to the curb. Not stay home. I'm stunned reading that the most important person in his life is worth less thoughtfulness than a coworker, which can come and go. In most marriages, assets are considered jointly, and spending decisions are made jointly as well within a certain limit. His Christmas spending, even with a huge income, seems very excessive to me, and kinda inappropriate/unprofessional, especially if they can't reciprocate on that level. I'd question if the coworker is just a coworker. I want to know how many of these people he's sleeping with. $900 on a coworker? Last story. Am I the a-hole for not getting my friend a $200 gift and making her feel unloved? My 28 male friend, 27 female, is usually a very kind person. But we recently got into a stupid argument and I wanted to post it here. My friend is obsessed with the 5 love languages. She always asks people what their love language is, and she does her best to show love by using your love language. She says that her love language is receiving gifts, so everyone should put a lot of thought into her gifts. I thought I put a good amount of thought into her gift. She likes this one brand of artisan coffee from a local shop, so I bought her a big bag of that coffee from the store and a nice mug to go with it. It cost about $45 in total. We did our gift exchange 1 week ago and she seemed disappointed when she opened her gift. I asked her what was wrong, and she asked how much I spent on the gift. I told her the price, and she said she expected a nicer gift, preferably about $200. She said that my cheap gift meant that she felt unloved, because receiving gifts is her love language. That admittedly pissed me off. I called her selfish and materialistic, and took the coffee and mug from her. I figured if she didn't want it, she shouldn't have it. I left without opening my gift, and now we haven't spoken in a few days. Am I the a-hole? She clearly thinks I am, but I think she's more of the a-hole here. Not the a-hole. Those who have gift-giving as their love language don't care about its monetary value but about its thoughtfulness and meaning. And your gift was very thoughtful. She's just a materialistic a-hole. Just this. Your friend's explanation of my love language is gifts and then demanding expensive gifts as a means to show your love back is just utter BS. I'd be curious to know just how kind she is in other regards. And I'll be honest here, I'd look at the examples very carefully to see if it's really a case of manipulation rather than true kindness. Agreed. She gives off the vibe of, I did all these nice things for my friends, so I deserve nice gifts. So entitled. I'm so happy took the gift back. Not stay home. She's ridiculous. And one of the many people who weaponize the love languages concept instead of using it for its intended purpose. See also, giving gifts isn't my love language, so you're not allowed to expect gifts from me ever. Tell her your love language is brand new cars. Exclusively. Anything pre-owned would be a slap in the face. First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not taking my wife to the hospital? My wife has a playful personality. She'd tease/mock/laughs at me all the time. Everywhere. During dinner, in the bathroom, at work, when we're intimate, and in public too. No matter how serious the situation is, she'd always crack a joke to lighten up the mood. I found this both great and annoying, as certain situations require us to be serious. I quite frankly don't know the reason behind her behavior. My sister suggested that it might be a way for her to cope with past traumatic events like her brother's death. He passed away before we met, and understand how hard this is. We have a 5-year-old who's pretty much like his mother. We gave him the nickname Clown because of how he's always laughing and telling jokes and dressing funny. We don't call him that in public though. She just gave birth to our second baby, and ever since she got pregnant, it got worse. Even worse in the past month. She's at home while I work long hours. Every other day, she'd call me during work to ask me something, then suddenly started freaking out telling me the water broke and I needed to get home fast. She's done it twice and recorded our call to listen to it with her sisters and laugh at my reaction. It made me look bad for lying to my employer and telling him my wife went into labor twice. I'd come up with excuses telling him that there was a mistake or something but never tell him my wife lied for the lols. Saturday, I was out working and meeting up with some clients in an area 2 hours away from home. It's a project we've been working on and the 2 clients wanted to see it. Suddenly, my phone started ringing. It was my wife. I looked at it and thought that she was at it again and tried to be funny telling me she went into labor. I put my phone on silent. Then I got a text from her telling me that I needed to get home to take her to the hospital, but I just quickly replied telling her to stop. This wasn't a time for messing around, I had a lot of work, and driving 2 hours just to find she was just kidding was not okay. But in about 30 minutes, I got a call from her sister calling me names for ignoring my wife's calls, and that she ended up driving her to the hospital herself. I was shocked. I left work and drove more than 2 hours to get to the hospital. My wife saw me and cussing me out and telling me to get out. I wasn't allowed in the delivery room. And her mother insulted me, asking me how I could leave my wife home alone and not answer her calls. I felt awful already. I wasn't allowed to see our baby until 10. The entire family called me neglectful a-hole and said I deserved what I got. My parents said I was in the wrong, although I explained that I didn't know. My wife keeps saying I had no right to complain about not being in the delivery room after I ignored her like that and made her feel helpless. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Buy her the story The Boy Who Cried Wolf for her to read to the new baby. Maybe the baby can read to her instead. Given how childish Opie's wife is being, are we sure she's past first grade? Not a-hole. Your wife doesn't have a playful personality. She's a bully, and an a-hole who uses your emotional state and lies to you for her own amusement. I like this, yes, not a-hole, and you nailed this person correctly. Hard not a-hole. Jesus Christ, this is the story of the boy who cried wolf. Or the woman who cried baby, I guess? This was entirely an incident of her own making. It is her fault. Yet, Opie is the one dealing with all the consequences once again. Opie just missed the birth of his child because of her actions. I'd be freaking livid with her. Opie's income, I imagine their joint income as she's just had a baby, was threatened repeatedly by her lies. All to humiliate her husband for her own amusement as a bully. Honestly, at this point, I want to fight fire with fire and have Opie tell his wife that he lost his job because of his wife's BS pranks. Tell wife that his boss told him that if it was another false alarm, he was losing his job, and when he left to go to the hospital to see her, he did lose his job. See how funny she finds it losing her income when she has a newborn because of her actions. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole if I don't allow my son in family photos? I, 30 female, have been together with my husband, 30 male, for 15 years and have been married for 7 years. We have had 2 instances where I have been excluded from family photos. The first time was when we were engaged and my husband's grandmother, 73 female, wanted to take photos of everyone for the holidays. When I situated myself next to my then fiancé, she said, "Let's take some photos of the biological family first." What followed was 30 minutes of different arrangements of family members while I sat off to the side because I was the only non-biological grandchild there. They took iterations that included spouses of aunts and uncles. They took a few photos with me at the end, but everyone was exhausted, so they didn't come out good. The photos that are on display at the grandmother's house are the photos without me in them. When I expressed my frustration to my husband, he explained that his family wanted to ensure they got some sets of the real family first. His words. I explained how hurt I was to be excluded, and he said that it would not be an issue again because we were going to be married. I took this as a sufficient answer and dropped it. Flash forward to summer of 2019. My husband and I had been married for 5 years and were trying to conceive. We went on a trip with the whole family. They set up a legacy photo shoot. I brought up my fears of a repeat of last time to my husband, but he assured me that things were different now. We were married, we were trying to start a family. I was a member of the family. We took a bunch of photos and I was included in the applicable groups. They took the classic arrangements. Grandparents with grandkids, grandparents with aunts/uncles and grandkids, grandparents with only their birthed children, aunts/uncle generation, but no iterations where the spouses were left out if their kids were involved. When Grandma checked the photos, she said, "Let's try a few with just the biological grandkids." I began tearing up and said, "You mean without me?" My husband pulled me aside and explained that it was only going to be for a few pictures, and asked me why I was ruining the photo shoot that was going so well. After arguing for a few minutes, I conceded and walked away. Since then, his grandmother has displayed photos from that trip and I am in none of them. Also, since then, my husband and I have had a son, 1 male. I have told my husband that in the future we will have 2 choices. Either he tells his family that I am staying in all of the pictures, or I leave and my son is also not in them either. My husband says that this isn't fair and causes him to have an uncomfortable conversation with his grandmother. Am I the a-hole here for not allowing my son to be in a family photo that I am obviously not welcome in? Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole. We took a bunch of photos and I was included in the applicable groups. The other spouses included were the aunts/uncle generation. I am the first spouse in the grandkids generation. Paraphrased from a reply from Opie. They were taking photos of the biological grandkids. You were not a biological grandkid. I'm sure that when they take pictures of the first great-grandkids, you will be in the applicable pictures as you already have been. You are attempting to assert yourself into a position you don't hold. Maybe grandma doesn't like you, maybe not. Maybe if you took a step back and examined your behavior to see if making things about you, when they aren't, is a pattern that may push her away, or maybe she is in fact the a-hole. But from what I'm reading here, I gotta read it as you're the a-hole. This is an excellent reply. I agree you're the a-hole. The people who are voting not the a-hole are not realizing that OP wants to be included in photos because of their age, and not because of their position in the family, which is what the grandmother seems to be doing. You're the a-hole. You are literally throwing a temper tantrum that an old lady wants photos of her grandkids, but not you because you aren't her grandkid. So freaking what? Why OP would want to be in the picture of the biological grandkids is beyond me. You're not a grandkid. None of the grandkids' parents were in the pictures. And who obsesses about the pictures displayed in other people's houses? Who cares that much? Some old bat didn't include you in the pictures, and what? The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not letting my in-laws into our home because that's what brother-in-law wanted? My brother-in-law, Jason, is 20, and 2 years ago he was in an accident that left him paralyzed. He's bound to a wheelchair and barely has any hand mobility, so he needs help with pretty much everything. My wife's parents were hit hard by this and struggled with the pressure of taking care of him. Even though he receives benefits and compensation, in-laws couldn't handle all the doctor's appointments, physical therapy sessions, and constantly caring for him. In the end, Jason came to live with us. Her parents claimed they just needed a few weeks to take a break from caring for him. A few weeks turned into months until he stayed with us permanently. There was a lot of conflict over this. We couldn't believe they just stopped coming to see him altogether, when he was already in a dark place and adjusting to these permanent life changes. We didn't speak with them for a long time. It was difficult to adjust at first, but we're glad he's here with us. Before COVID, we had a care provider stay with him while we were at work, but now that we're home majority of the time, we just take turns. He and I have gotten very close, so we've had many talks about his feelings. I know how hard this is for him and how much it hurt when my in-laws pulled out of his life. We haven't had any contact with them at all in over a year. Well, as it turns out, they want to see him again. My wife told me this could be the chance to finally get the family back together and to make amends. She's talked this over with Jason, but he wants nothing to do with them. He's made it clear he doesn't want to see them, but she insists it's important they all talk. Today, they showed up unexpectedly when my wife was out. Jason was in the other room, and apparently they arranged this meeting today with my wife, but got there earlier than the agreed time. They just wanted to have a sit-down with Jason, but I didn't let them set foot in the house. Honestly, my anger got the best of me, and I shut the door on them when they wouldn't leave. I told Jason they were here. He didn't want to speak with them. They left after 10 minutes. When my wife got home, she was furious. She knows what they did was bad, but this was the chance to make it better, and Jason doesn't know what's best for himself because he's still upset about what they did. We went back and forth on this. She said closing the door on them and refusing to let them see Jason was an a-hole move, but I feel his wishes should be respected. However, she says his feelings on this are obviously clouded because of what happened, and I prevented him from reconnecting with them in order to move on from the pain. So, I'm not sure, was I an a-hole here? Not the a-hole. Your brother-in-law absolutely does know what's best for his own emotional well-being. He shouldn't be forced to clear the air until he wants to do so. I completely agree, and Opie needs to have a serious conversation with his wife about her priorities. This was a planned ambush on her brother, and she was in on it. Not the a-hole. As someone with mobility issues from a spinal injury and headed for a wheelchair, I would be horrified by being trapped in that situation if no one listened to me. You did Jason a solid here by respecting his wishes. It's not like he could just leave. They wanted a captive audience regardless of him and his feelings. It's completely disrespectful. Not the a-hole. It seems like out of everyone, you are the only one who actually cares about Jason and his feelings. Everyone else just wants what's best for themselves, including your wife. I understand she wants her family back together, but this is not the way to do that. Her parents made their choice, and now they must live with the consequences. It's understandable that they couldn't take care of him, obviously being elderly. But to completely stop seeing him after a life-altering accident, they are a-holes for that. If Jason chooses to never see them, that is his choice, not theirs, and certainly not your wife. She's being completely selfish. Jason is lucky to have you in his corner. I think you made a right choice to slam the door on them. Now they know how it feels to shut someone off. They had a nurse helping them with all the heavy stuff. It was just that they were having a hard time adjusting to all the new changes. And yes, I get it takes time for something like this to become your new normal, but certainly not impossible. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole / are we the a-hole for not letting my boyfriend's mom put animals in our farm? I'm 20 female and my boyfriend is 21 male. We have been dating for over 2 years. Back in late 2019, we started renting a house together and the house happened to have a small farm. We didn't use the farm at first, but eventually we cleaned it up and put some sheep on there, and we have a sheepdog as well. My boyfriend's mom is in love with the idea of farming. However, their house doesn't have the capabilities to do that, but she often comes and visits our farm. When we got our sheep, she was going to buy a couple herself and keep up there, which we didn't really want to happen, but it never came to an actual idea, so it wasn't an issue. We got a calf a couple months ago and I fell in love with it. We bottle-fed it and raised it. However, it unfortunately passed away a few weeks ago from unknown causes. My boyfriend's mom bottle-fed it a few times as well. The other day, my boyfriend's mom was over here and asked if we would ever get another one. We told her possibly when it's a bit warmer, and one that was already off the bottle. She said, "Well, how about you all get one and I get one?" We told her we didn't really want to do that because a calf can be a lot of work and expensive, so we just wanted one. She got upset and said, "I will take care of it." And we said, "You're going to come up here every day and feed it and come in the middle of the night if it gets sick, etc." She got really quiet, and that was the end of it. My boyfriend's dad messaged us a couple days later and said his mom was really upset about it because she wanted a farm. He also said, "You were willing to let her get a sheep, why not a calf?" Sheep are not as much work as cows, and we never really let her get a sheep. That's fine, but this is our farm that we take care of. She wouldn't be the one taking care of her calf. It would more often be us unless she was up here, and we really don't want her up here every day even if she was willing to do that, which she's not. My boyfriend is with me on this completely as he knows he would be taking care of whatever his mom gets. Are we the a-holes here? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Seriously? She should be on her husband's butt about moving and getting a farm so much. Or be content with admiring your farm animals, for which I'm sure she can always visit on a sensible manner. Yeah, she clearly doesn't understand the pain of caring for these animals. Best if she buys her own farm and leave Vopi the hell alone. Not the a-hole. Livestock require care. Fencing, hay production or purchase, dewormer, counted every day so you can't find one if it's missing, grain purchases, salt and mineral blocks, and so much more. You don't just go, "I want a fluffy that someone else takes care of," unless you are paying board at the boarding facility, and that is usually pretty exclusive to horses and also usually $300 plus a month. She wants a farm. Her and her husband needs to figure out the move necessary, as in move to a farm, and do the work themselves. Not the a-hole in the context that she's being entitled and has no right to demand anything from you guys. But you can't just get a calf. It will be so lonely. Cattle are really social creatures, and no amount of human interaction will replace another bovine for company. Getting two would be much kinder to them, and if your boyfriend's mother is willing to pay for one and split costs with you, it might not be a terrible idea. Plus, it's a backup if you guys are out of town for whatever reason. The only reason we had our last calf is because it fell into our laps because it was a neighbor's and its mother rejected it. We have thought about getting two for ourselves, just not her having one. It would essentially be taking our resources, and if she were to sell it, then she would keep the profit when it has been our money keeping it going. First story is titled, "Am I the a-hole for pressing charges when my stepson took something my daughter inherited from her mother?" I'm male 47, been with my wife for 2 years. She has a 21-year-old son, and I have a 14-year-old daughter from my previous marriage. My late wife passed away in 2014, and she left a few things for our daughter, including a gold jewelry set. Her mom was devastated she didn't get to give the set to our daughter on her wedding day. So I keep it in my closet, since it's expensive, and my daughter is too young to have it, and I'll hopefully gift it to her on her wedding day. Last week, we were sitting in the kitchen when my stepson was hesitant to ask me something. We're in good terms, but have our fair share of arguments. He said his fiancée was taking something from his mother's and my closet, saw the jewelry set, and liked it very much. He asked if he could borrow it, so his fiancée can wear it at her cousin's wedding. I found this unacceptable, and I told him his fiancée had no business being in the bedroom, and that the jewelry isn't mine, it's for my daughter. He asked me if my daughter will agree to let him borrow it if he talked to her. I told him not to even talk about it again. He got all pissed and said things I do not remember. Saturday night, when he and his fiancée were at the wedding, I discovered that the jewelry set was gone. I told my wife and we looked all over the house. I called my stepson to tell him about calling the police because I really thought someone stole the set. He said there was no need, that he borrowed it and will return it after they get back from the wedding. I yelled at him and told him to come back with it right then. I kept calling him till 12 a.m. when he told me to stop calling and that he'd bring it in the morning. I couldn't sleep that night. I felt so terrible. In the morning, he showed up at 10 a.m. He didn't bring it and started stalling, saying he forgot and he'd bring it the next day. At this point, it was clear he gifted it to his fiancée and was stalling. I got so mad. I told him I will be pressing charges if he doesn't return the set today. We got into an argument and my wife said his fiancée was the one who wanted the jewelry set. But he was the one who took it, and it's not even mine. It's my daughter's. Which made it worse because I'm responsible for whatever happens to it. His grandparents berated me after I told them this and got mad and defended him when I said that I will be pressing charges. He stole and needed to be responsible for his actions. He didn't respond to my final calls, so now I've given him one last chance, then it's over. I pressed charges today. They're saying calling the police was extreme and cruel. They're all convincing me to back down. Am I the a-hole for pressing charges? He was replying to me sarcastically when I said that I'd get the authorities involved, and he didn't take me seriously. His mom said she'd try to talk to him, but I had enough of him stalling, hoping I'll just let it go so he can make his fiancée happy. I feel like an irresponsible idiot. I can't even look at my daughter without feeling frustrated and infuriated. I'm hurt, but what's worse is that this is my daughter's property that I couldn't take care of. My wife allows them into the room, although I told her not to several times. They're not kids, and there should be some boundaries. I just needed to mention that they were in Europe. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole and don't back down. A 20-something step kid is stealing your daughter's heirloom. The family are all flying monkeys. Piggybacking to say that my mom died in 2015, and all I have left of her is her jewelry. It means the world to me. OP would be the A if he backs down from family pressure. This is straight up theft, and his stepson is human filth for taking something that doesn't belong to him and is an heirloom. He stole from a 14-year-old girl. He deserves to suffer the consequences of his actions, especially when OP gave him many chances to give it back. He's not, because he thinks OP will back down. Do this for your daughter, OP. She's already gone through enough. She doesn't need to lose a part of her mom all over again. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. You gave the son every opportunity to return the jewelry. Let the cops sort out the culpability of son and fiancé. And get a safe deposit box. Mom's and the grandparents' attitudes show that this isn't going to be the last thing that goes missing. I'd be considering a safe deposit box and a lawyer. The fact that she wasn't calling him to return it immediately would be enough in my eyes. Not the a-hole, but be prepared. This may be the hill your marriage dies on. It would be worth it. The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for agreeing with my partner's decision to make my daughter leave when she's 18? I, 36 female, have a 17-year-old daughter. 3 years ago, my daughter and I moved in with my boyfriend of 9 years. The house is technically in both of our names, but I have not worked for the last 9 years, so he's the reason we still live there. He has not gotten along with my daughter since we moved in, and he at one point earlier on said he was very wary about being married and becoming a stepfather since he is already a father of 3 kids, 2 of whom, 15 female, 13 female, still live in the house. He and my daughter fight a lot, and his 15-year-old in particular takes her dad's side in all their fights. During their latest argument, my boyfriend said he finally has had enough. He called me in and told me that he hates drama. He said that his kids' welfare comes first, so if my daughter's attitude was contributing to their, especially his 15-year-old's apparent unhappiness, something has to give. He said he's always had a no a-holes policy in his business, but that extends to his family. He said when my daughter turns 18, we could give her leeway to find a new place, but ultimately, this is his house, not hers. He said that he's saying right here, right now, that he does not want her in this house after she's an adult. But he said my name is on the house too, so he asked if I agreed or not. I honestly didn't know what else I could say, because it was his house first, and in many ways, it was his house more than it was mine. So I told my daughter that I'd help her find a job if need be in a place, but I really couldn't do anything about it if my partner had made up his mind. He interjected and said he definitely had, and having an extra adult mouth to feed wasn't cheap. My daughter said I was a sellout, and that then I should get a job to help her with getting an apartment, even though I spent all my time trying to run the house smoothly. Am I the a-hole? It seems sudden, but I think we can reasonably say that it was a long time coming. Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole. You've been with him for 9 years. No ring, and he has clearly said he's wary of giving you one? Yet you choose him, someone who won't commit over your daughter. Your name is on the house. It's legally your home too. You gave no resistance. Just went, that's fine, honey. Let's kick my own kid out. His kid's welfare takes priority over your own kid's welfare? Blended families take work. And it doesn't seem like any of you have been to therapy together if the fights are as bad as you're making them out to be. I think their relationship dynamic is really horrible. It seems like she's completely dependent on him and doesn't want to get a job. If he is justified in kicking Opie's daughter out, depends on how she behaved. If she is aggressive or violent or emotionally abusive, he and his kids have a right to feel safe and comfortable in their house. If he is being an a-hole, controlling or overbearing with her, it's his own fault she doesn't like him and fights him about it. They've been together for 9 years. He has known her, the daughter, since she was 8, a child. For her to not like him so much that they're fighting, after she's known him since she was a little kid, I highly doubt she's the problem. And for it to continue for 3 years since mom moved in with her, it's not her that's the problem. The boyfriend is an adult. Adults should be more emotionally mature than teenagers in general. To not be able to even get along with someone is known since they were very young, and for it to go on for so long, she is very, very unlikely to be the problem. You're the a-hole. This girl is 18, and it is 2021. The worst pandemic we've seen in 100 years, and the tightest margin young adults have ever witnessed in terms of cost of living and wages. You would be setting your daughter up for a very unpleasant life if you ditch her at 18. If she is bringing these or other junk in the house, then I can see it. But in attitude, you two need professional help. Big time. Also notice Opie's age. She was 19 when she had her kid. How old is the boyfriend? He sounds older and like he has control of things. You're the a-hole. I can already see the post, if Reddit is still there. X years ago, my daughter's boyfriend threw me out on the day I turned 18. He died a few weeks/months ago. They weren't married, there was no will, and all his money went to his own children. Now Eggy wants to reconcile. Let it be clear, she never worked. She just sponged off him. But I laughed at her in her face and said, too little too late. Would I be the a-hole if I get her served with not only a cease and desist letter, but also actively pursue a restraining order due to her harassing me for money because family stands together/helps each other? Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for being mad at my stepdaughter? I, 39 female, have a stepdaughter, Molly, 16 female, who I'm not close with, and a son, 15 male, and a daughter, 3, with her dad. Molly gets excited and also upsets very easily. She's also in drama and takes it very seriously, which is good. Her room is right above her half-sisters. Yesterday, the guest list for her show came out, and she was in her room squealing and stomping and jumping around. She woke up her sister from her nap, and I went up there to inform her. She was defensive, saying, well, it's my room, and the guest list just came out. I'm the lead. And I responded with, actually, it's your father and I's room, and we'll let you live here. My parents did this with me if I got too rowdy. Skipped to dinner last night and she's talking with her dad. She asked if she could go to school and talk to the director about choreography and help out, and then go to Hobby Lobby and then go to her cousins. Before her dad could say anything, I talked to her about her sister and how she woke her up, and I said that she should watch her tomorrow. Her and her dad both gave me looks, but I'm serious. Her dad said no, Molly can go do those things tomorrow. But I want her to see how much of a chore watching toddlers is, and how she undid an hour of work on my part. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Since this keeps coming up, I've known her since she was 12. My son is mine. I don't know the relationship between my son and my husband since I never see them together, unless they're eating, since some of you needed it. Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole, and I see clearly why your relationship is not close. Glad her dad overrode your nonsense. You're the a-hole. The normal reaction would be, congratulations, well done. But could you come downstairs and tell me quietly, please? Why is the 3-year-old napping? Surely she's too old for naps. Opie doesn't have custody of her 15-year-old. Wonder why? She is under no obligation to watch her half-sister. Opie is trying to control the house. You're the a-hole. We let you live here has a different meaning to a stepchild you aren't close to, and a child you love and are committed to. My parents said it to me is totally besides the point. Were your parents your parents? You didn't take a second to try to build this relationship you say needs work, namely, congratulations. You want her to care about you and your child, but didn't take a second to show you care about her. Also, she's 16, so they let her live there as they are legally required to. Young children are notoriously easy to wake up. Why is her room under anyone's room? You're the a-hole. You're seriously angry at and trying to punish a 16-year-old theater kid for being excited that she accomplished landing the lead? Okay, few things. My parents did the same "we allow you to be here" type crap. It's damaging. It never made me feel like I had security or safety in my home or living situation. Knock it off. Secondly, just ask her to keep it down. Does your son also get punished with toddler care when he's too loud? The last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for unintentionally hurting my stepmom's feelings? I have a stepmom, one who is good to me and my dad. I actually like her. She's been my stepmom since I was 10, and now I'm 16. She cares about me more than I care about her, and she sees me as one of her kids. She has a son and a daughter who are close in age to me, but I never saw her as a mom. I am so glad my dad has her and we have a pretty alright relationship. She is pretty respectful of my mom's memory. I know she avoids my room for the most part because that's where most of the photos are, but it's no biggie. So recently, she found out that I have corrected people who assume she's my mom. Because a loudmouth girl I was doing a school project with, via Zoom, decided to blurt it out in front of her. My stepmom's daughter was there, and she lost it. My stepmom sent her to her room after she refused to apologize. The same day, right before bed, my dad and her said they would speak to her daughter and that I hadn't done anything wrong. I asked my stepmom if she was okay. I told her to open up because I could see she was hurting. She admitted it hurt her feelings a little that I correct people who make the assumption, but she also understood. She asked me if she could ask me something. I said sure. She asked me how I felt about her really. She told me there was no pressure or judgment. She just wanted to hear. I asked her if she would be honest if I told her. She assured me she would, and when I told her I liked her, and was so glad my dad had her and that I thought she was a good person. She admitted she was a little sad. Like wasn't love, but she was also really glad I felt that way about her too, because she would hate it if I didn't like her. I told her I was sorry that what I said to others had hurt her feelings, and she told me there was nothing to apologize for. We both appreciated the honesty, and I thought that was the end of it. Except her daughter has been acting like a jerk to me ever since, and keeps saying I hurt her mom's feelings, calling me a witch all the time, and saying she deserves more than I give her because she's been my mom whether I like it or not. She then told me that her mom is better than my dumb, precious mommy could ever be, which she was grounded for saying. But I do feel bad still that my feelings hurt my stepmom, and that what I said to others hurt her. It just always stings when people assume she's my mom. For me, it's like my mom being slowly erased when people started saying someone else is my mom, you know? I need to know. Am I the a-hole, guys? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. It sounds like the problem lies with your stepsister, not your stepmom. You made it clear that you two spoke about things and came to a quality and respectful understanding. I would clear the air with the stepsister and do your best to move on respectfully. But don't compromise on your choice to hold boundaries with regard to where you stand with a relationship with your true mother and your stepmother. Communication is key. Good luck. The stepmom is hurt, but she's not holding that against Opie. She's being understanding, unlike other stepmoms we've seen on this thread. It's the daughter who can't let it go. I hope the daughter comes to understand that people are allowed to have different feelings. Absolutely not, Day-Hole. You sound like a lovely and caring person with a very good relationship with your stepmother. It's not rude to correct facts. She's not your mother. She's your stepmother. That doesn't mean she's not important to you or that you don't like her. It's just a fact. I'm sorry your stepsister is a big jerk. I hope your dad and stepmom can get her poor behavior under control, but none of this is on you. Am I the a-hole for refusing to open the door for my sister when she brought her kids to stay with me? This is an ongoing conflict. Yesterday at 11 a.m. I was alone at home. Dear husband went to work early and I was just starting my daily cleaning routine when the bell rang. I, female 30, peeked through the hole and saw my sister, female 36, and her 3 kids, 5, 3, and 2. I did not open the door and talk to her behind it, and I'll explain why in a minute. She said she had an argument with her chronically ill husband, male 34, and wanted to once again punish him by keeping the kids away from him, until he apologized to her for what he said, which was regular argument stuff. Explanation. She started doing this when he got sick. Every time she gets in an argument with my brother-in-law, she'd take the kids and refuses to bring them back till I apologize to her. He has a medical condition that prevents him from getting outside the house, and she's been using that. And instead of taking the kids to our aunt's house this time, she brought them to me since aunt is out of town. She asked that I take the kids for 2 days, but I refused and pointed out how unacceptable and wrong for her to punish her husband who's already sick, and using the fact that he can't drive to go pick his kids up or at least see them against him, should keep them away for days. She started talking about how her husband doesn't care about her hurt feelings and how much she does for him. Also, how this method has proven to be effective since it got him to recognize his wrongdoings and apologize. But I replied that he probably was only apologizing just to see the kids. I said it wasn't fair for the kids either, but she said they agreed to stay with me and told me to open the door because they missed me so much. I refused and said I won't be responsible when brother-in-law finally decides to do something about this and get the cops involved. She yelled that she's their mother, so the cops won't do a damn thing about it, and assured me my brother-in-law would never do that knowing how much she's cared for him. But I stood my ground and said I won't be opening the door. Period. She yelled saying I was unsupportive and selfish to keep my nieces and nephew out, and refused to open the door for them. I suggested she go work her issues out like a rational adult, and stop pulling cruel stunts that affects her husband and the kids' emotional/mental health. She took offense to that, and said I was clearly on my brother-in-law's side. She shamed me in front of the kids for 10+ minutes, then left. Hours later, my dad, who lives in another town, called, shaming and berating me for not opening the door for his grandchildren, as well as insulting my sister and siding against her. I explained my reasons, but he said the kids are with my cousin and insisted I go pick them up. My husband said I should have opened the door for the kids, and that he could see how dad would be upset with me for not taking the kids in till my sister's conflict with her husband is resolved. He wants me to go pick the kids up, but I keep refusing. But I feel like I'm unsupportive of my sister. More details about my brother-in-law. He has a chronic illness that's gotten worse lately and limited his ability to do most things. To my knowledge, he wears catheter, wears a cannula and a medical device so he can't drive or walk outside a house. My parents never liked him because he was already sick when my sister married him and said she was wasting her life with him, but she always says she loves him. But I'm not even sure judging by her recent actions. Now for the top comments. Not today home. Do not go and pick up the kids. Get in touch with CPS instead to explain the situation. CPS for the kids and Adult Protective Services for the husband. Both need to be called now. Not day hall for the OP. Not day hall. Your sister is weaponizing her kids against a guy who can't fight back. The guy's chronically ill and can't even leave the house to get them. She is abusive. There, I said it. She shouldn't worry about the cops getting involved. It's civil at this point. But boy, if husband gets a lawyer involved, will he have ammunition against her. Her husband, if he doesn't divorce her, will resent her. Probably already does. And her kids, when they're old enough to figure out what she's doing, will resent her. He can't physically take care of himself, let alone 3 kids. I don't think he can get custody. Not stay home. There's something deeply wrong with your family's dynamic here. That your dad is encouraging this is bizarre. It sounds like you need to lay down some firm boundaries with him. Oh yeah, of course my dad is on her side. She's his favorite daughter. There, I said it bluntly. What can I possibly do with them? It's helpless. They have been putting more pressure on me and side-eyeing me for allegedly siding with my brother-in-law. The man has enough to deal with and doesn't need these pathetic games my sister keeps playing. Next story. Am I the a-hole for forcing him to hold up his end of the bargain? Long story short, 3 years ago my fiancé's mom was trying to leave a relationship and needed a place to stay. At that time, we lived in a very small, cramped 2-bedroom apartment, with the second bedroom converted into my office because I work from home and need a space for my employment equipment. 2 monitors, printer, fax, filing cabinets, etc. Despite me saying that I truly didn't want to give up my space, he begged and pleaded until I finally gave in. He said, and I quote, "When the day comes, I would do the same for you if your family ever needed it." I was honestly still far, far from happy, because realistically speaking, his mom didn't need a place to go at all. The house her and her boyfriend had was in fact hers, and she had owned it for years. So why she was the one who moved out is beyond me. It wasn't a toxic relationship. She just wasn't feeling it anymore. Fast forward 2 months of her staying. She has completely taken over my office space, and I have my equipment set up in the only other spot available, directly in front of my TV. She moves out and back in with her boyfriend. Never paid a dime and didn't even bother taking most of her things with her, which took me more than 3 days to clear out with my fiancé. Not impressed. Anyhow, we upgrade. We bought a 4-bedroom home last year with a plan of expanding our family. This was prior to finding out he is infertile. It sucks, but honestly, it is what it is. I'm not wildly upset about it. However, my mom just lost her home due to foreclosure. She was renting, and her landlord didn't pay his rent, so the house was foreclosed, and she was given a 3-day notice to quit. My mom has my siblings with her, 14-year-old twins. Very well behaved and clean kids. She needs a place to go, and we have 2 rooms available. I bring it up with my fiancé, and he immediately says he isn't comfortable with it, and that he doesn't want his home to feel like it isn't his by allowing other people to move in and take over. So I brought up his agreement years back, and stated that I allowed his mother to move in for literally no reason, whereas my mother legit needs a place. He is now saying that that was years ago, and the situation is 100% different because there was 2 teenagers running the house when his mom moved in. He says I'm an a-hole for trying to force this on him and make him do something he isn't comfortable with. Am I the a-hole? I have no words, Opie. I would rethink the fiancé status. He's up to bat and proving he doesn't value your family the way he demands you to value his. How about offering him to stay with his mommy dearest if he can't fathom sharing a 4-bedroom home with your siblings for a short period of time? I mean, she should return the favor, right? Not today, home. You deserve better. Also, the intention was to eventually have a kid or more with you. Does he assume a child wouldn't grow into a teenager? Unfortunately, some parents like little kids and only want little kids. Once they stop being cute to them, they don't give them the same amount of attention and love that they did when they were toddlers. So, they have more. I knew a guy who just kept having children over and over with his wife, and he showed a lot of neglect and distaste towards his teenage son, who was often forced to babysit the younger kids. Mysteriously, though, he was always very active and loving with the toddlers. Wait. He wanted you to give up space that you use for work purposes / paycheck purposes for his mother who had literally no reason to leave her own home that she legitimately owns. Then he says that your mother with 2 teenagers who are presumably easier to handle than, say, toddlers, aren't allowed in any of the 2 extra bedrooms, assuming one is used for your workspace, even though there were circumstances beyond her control that made her homeless. I'm assuming your mother only lost her home, and I'm also assuming she did not lose her job, that she isn't subsisting predominantly in any welfare programs like Section 8 housing or other such housing subsidies. And if this is the case, then it sounds like a very temporary arrangement. Your mother does otherwise have the means to afford her own place, but just needs time to save for it. Am I correct in assuming this? Otherwise, I don't know if there is possibly any extra info to ask for that would ever make me think the contrary. But you are not today home. You are correct. So my mother is a full-time RN, 12 years strong. She would pay rent and not expect to live for free, despite me never asking. Which is more than I can say for his mother who didn't lift a finger to help with bills or cleaning. My mom is also a clean freak, so I know our home would never be in shambles. Not today home, but why are you in this relationship? It sounds like he doesn't care about you or your family. Oddly enough, this is actually the first time something like this has ever arose. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for kicking my son's wife out? So my son got married super early, 18, and I supported him but also expressed my grievances. Anyways, his wife has always hated me for anything I do. I've tried to extend an olive branch, but she always rejects it. Him and his wife fell on quite hard times after my son lost his job, and my son has been fine living with me but his wife wasn't. She complains about anything and everything I do. She hates my cooking, but if my son heats her up a bowl, it's the best thing ever. If I clean the whole house plus the room they're staying in, he always misses a spot. Never a thank you or anything. Yesterday, I decided I didn't want to be treated like this anymore, and told her that I don't know where this hostility was coming from, and if she doesn't at least try to get to know me, then she can leave. She proceeded to call me the B word, so I gave her 30 days to move out. My son said that was too harsh and to just deal with it, but I already have for a long time. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? Edited to add, I found out why daughter-in-law has been treating me like this. My son told her that I resent her for taking my son. I don't know why I told her that, but it is what it is. Info, I am kicking my son out too. Not today home. Married adults acting like children. No one is entitled to your house. 30 days is generous. There is no reason why either of them cannot find work right now. Jumping in top comment to add, based on Opie's edit. It does not matter that son told her you resent her. You're not acting like it. You house them, you feed them, you clean for them. You are treating them with respect and love, so at the very least, she should be respectful and polite. She should be doing these tasks herself as a thank you for letting them live with you and supporting them. But why in the world would your son say something like that? They both sound too immature to be married. Not today home. You are giving them a place to stay, food to eat, and other living necessities. It is your house, and you have a right to kick them out if they aren't pulling their weight, especially if she's disrespectful towards you at every corner. It boggles my mind. My husband and I lived with my in-laws shortly after getting married as we were in the middle of finding a place of our own. We didn't pay rent, so instead we cooked, cleaned, went grocery shopping, did maintenance. Family or not, adults have to contribute to the household in one way or another. The disrespect is the final straw. No one should expect free housing, food, maid service, then disrespect a person providing all of that. I'm glad you stood up for yourself, Opie. Not today home. Nobody should have put up with this kind of disrespect and hostility in their own home. You welcomed this person into your home and shown them kindness in their time of need. I can't even begin to understand how she has the nerve to treat you and talk to you this way. Any normal person would be thankful and do their best to be respectful and helpful around the house. Info. How does your son feel about the way she talks to you? Has he actually heard the things she says to you / how does he react? He rarely hears, and if he does, then he pretends he didn't. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my parents their divorce was hard on me even if they were still friendly afterward? I'm 24 female, I'm expecting my first child, and the event brought up some issues between my parents and me. When I was 8, my parents divorced. They still got along okay, but didn't want to be together anymore and worked on co-parenting and making things easier for me and my brother who was 10. It was better than some of my friends had it, but still hard. I mourned the family life I had enjoyed before. Having one home where both parents live and where we were just a family, not two families with different kids in one, and a new person who is considered your parents by everyone but you, and where it's weird because everyone thinks them getting along made it, so there was no struggling. But then people just think you fall madly in love with a nice person your parent marries, and readily accept a new person in a position of a parent. They think it makes jumping between homes easier. It does somewhat. If we forgot something at mom's or dad's, the other would bring us to pick it up with no drama. But I used to long for the days where I had a home. When my brother was 17 and coming up on graduation, my parents told him all 4 parents were going to do the graduation dinner for the graduating kid and parents. And he told them no, because he only had 2 parents and only mom and dad could go. They said he had 4, that the steps were just as good parents, and he told them no. The relationship changed after that. It was only with me becoming a mom they expected me to side with them over what had happened, and for me to say everything was perfect with a divorce. I told them it wasn't. That the divorce was hard on me despite how well they got along. That I was so happy they were happy and had better lives now. But divorce is always going to be something to adjust to for a kid regardless of circumstances, and they can't keep forcing us to say otherwise. They called me childish, and we haven't spoken since. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You expressed a perfectly valid emotion and did so in a non-judgmental way. It was not childish. Their reaction was though. Not today home. It was understandable. You can't adapt immediately. It takes time. You were right to tell them that. You were respectful and reasonable. My parents broke up when I was 19 and no longer lived at home. I was an adult and it still sucked so bad. Still shattered my world. I can't even fathom how awful it must be for a child. It's something you might possibly never get over, and I don't see why should you lie if someone asks you how you felt about it. Not today home. You and your brother are entitled to your feelings, and your parents are denying them. Are they expecting you to have your step-parents be called grandpa and grandma by your kid? They will be, because it will save so much drama to let it happen. You're the a-hole. What would you rather have happen between your parents? What is your ideal way of having them resolve this issue of divorce? Because from where I'm at, they seem to be really fair to you and your brother. Would you rather force two people to be unhappy while you grow up ignorant to their problems and their feelings? Or that they did what they did and end a marriage amicably? Your feelings are valid for sure, but that doesn't mean you aren't an a-hole. If you or your brother were mistreated in any way, I would understand how you feel about your step-parents. But you said they were the nicest, yet you alienated them, and they're still there trying to have some sort of a relationship with you. Your brother's reaction, although valid because of how he feels, is still unfair to four people who really didn't do anything wrong to him or you. And this is all based off of the info you have provided. If they mistreated you, let us know. But if not, you guys are the a-hole. You can both be the a-hole and still have valid feelings. I don't know how other people on here can't see that. They never mistreated us, and I never said they should stay married. Acknowledging our feelings would be nice though. I have acknowledged theirs, and I agree that what they did was for the best. But that doesn't mean it wasn't hard. And not all relationships look the same. My step-parents are nice people, but they are not my parents. I do not love them or care about them the same as my parents. I always include them though, but never ever complain to them about having to. It would just be nice to not have them decide what my feelings are about all this.